Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I want to talk about American Airlines, who is going to be announcing earnings this upcoming Thursday. As you can see, their last earnings report was A, amidst a very wide spread of expectations, and B, was not very good in the slightest. So what I want to look for this time is that already priced in? Is that expectation there? As we look at some of that information, let's go ahead and look at just how the price has been performing over the past month, you see right here, but in particular the past 10 days. I want to highlight that some of the information that's going to be driving the lead up into earnings is going to be conversations surrounding the stimulus discussions. As you can see, the fact that over the past few days, we are seeing a lot of movement based off of that information. One of the things that can make this stock very attractive is its low price point, its entry point of $12.80 right now. And I do want to highlight that the airline stocks is not an industry I personally like to invest in, particularly during this current point in time, in which case a lot of the airlines are not doing well. They've cut their dividends, and there's really no clear expectation on a return to profitability. That being said, it does present good information and good capabilities for speculating. American Airlines is largely believed to be the first one, if there is going to be an airline that does go out of business. So as you can see over the year-to-date trend, this is one that's tend to fare worse than some of these other big movers. And in that comparison, what we would be looking at is the Deltas, the United Airlines, Alaska Airlines, and JetBlue. Although these three, and I would say Spirit, are probably the big movers right now. And you can see that 52-week change reflect that information. Again, not really good though. One thing that I would highlight though, as we're continuing to look at this information, is how are they going to perform going forward, especially going into earnings. As you can see, the estimate range going into the next series of earnings is pretty high. I mean, there's a pretty wide spread there. The key thing that we're going to need to look at is if there's a favorable surprise, what is the forecast? What is the expectation on returning to profitability? And I think that's going to be what drives this play. The key item here is, are they going to be able to survive? Are they going to be able to make a profit? These guys weren't making a ton of profit leading up into this year, and that's what sets them apart from someone like a Delta or United Airlines, who actually has the capability to kind of weather the storm a little bit longer. So what I'm going to be looking at from the next steps, or from the potential plays, is not a weekly. And I do want to go ahead and encourage everyone to try and stay away from the calls or puts for the week. Even going just that little bit farther to the next week is going to save you a lot of potential money. You can see that right now there is a decent amount on the pricing side in terms of where the stock could move, although these very attractive calls and puts are pretty set from a go forward standpoint, and that I really like the pricing on these, especially for some of these closer to the money puts. Right now you can get in on the 1150 put for in between $20 and $23, with the last option that went through coming in at $22. I like this expectation because you could potentially play the stimulus news as well. If the stock starts to deteriorate and premiums go up going into earnings, then you could sell out prior to earnings to avoid any complications. But again, that's a pretty decent move from here. But if you enter at $20 and the stock drops by 40 or 50 cents, which we've seen that happen in even just the past few days, I think that there's a lot of benefits to being able to do that. So even over the past 10 days, you can see that the price has dropped as low as $12 a share. So just by the fact that the stock could drop by 80 cents, you'd see that 20 cent or that $20 go into anywhere between $40 to $50, which would be a 100% return. So that is the possibility. Again, I do want to compare this to Delta, who just over the past 5 days has reported earnings, and look at some of the moves that we've seen. So here's Delta in blue. You can see that black or that blue line not performing very well in the slightest. However, there's been some moves that have been made. When we pull the chart, there's been moves that have been made over the past 5 days. What I'm going to be looking at is what's going to happen when they announce earnings. Are we going to see a drop like this? Again, we're all up over the past 5 days. So I think there's a lot of advantages to being able to watch this stock and being able to buy puts at a relatively inexpensive price. So there's a low risk with a potentially high reward. But again, at the end of the day, even if it expires worthless, at the end of the day, it's only $22, although you can definitely make multiple buys there. I also want to highlight, just to share my opinion here of not being a fan. Most of the analyst reports are not looking at this favorably, and the earnings expectations are not high as well. So we don't have a lot of, hey, we're excited about this stock going forward. Just to highlight that, let's look at some of the cash flows just on a quarterly basis. So again, we're just looking at the quarter. Here's some of the cash flow from operations. Just look at the comparison between last year to this year. If this doesn't go up in a pretty high level, then they're definitely going to be in trouble. And you can see that debt ballooning as well, as that continues to go up at a pretty high ratio, and that equity plummeting. So this is all stuff to watch, stuff we're going to be looking at. I'm liking the puts. I'm probably going to go in on this play, although not certain at this point in time. We need to see where the market opens up tomorrow. But this is the plan going forward, is to go into the options. And again, those next week, I like the 1150s, but I'm going to be watching that tomorrow. They move pretty quickly, so check them out. But this is my opinion on American Airlines. Let me know your opinion down below.